Right, can we start with the salawat, please? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So what we're going to do today is what you've got in front of you, which is overview of Qur'an, which is Quran City, right? If you look at the screen, this is how he started. So I'm going to go through a little bit of history of how he started. What bothered me most was coming to workshop and seeing children or teachers only illustrate Qur'an or do the stories of Qur'an where they could either make an ark, or they had the snake of Prophet Musa, or they had something that was tangible in a story form. And I found that if you ask the students about any of the other surah, they didn't know. So that bothered me for a long time, and I didn't quite know how to do this. The only way we could do it was with Qur'an recitation. And as all of you know, most of us do pare and pare and pare and pare. So one day, sitting in the shed, I found some bricks. And these were leftovers from my children who had grown up. And I put them together as 114 buildings. And I remember looking at those buildings, and it literally looked like a skyline. And I thought, well, yeah, okay, maybe that may work. But it didn't work, because 114 buildings, and the length of the buildings was the number of ayat in that surah. So Baqarah was the tallest, and Asr was the shortest. And I just put them in a line. And then I thought, let's put some color to it. And we did Makki and Madani. So Makki surah, as you can see on your map, have yellow roofs, and Madani surah have green roofs. But that really didn't do much either. So you have 86 Makki and 28 Madani, and I'll go in the difference in a minute. And then I thought, that's not working. So I looked at a book that I had again in the shed, which said the morphology of Medina. And there it told me how the Prophet built Medina. So it actually changed Yathrib. He had the industries outside, he had the shops all around the mosque, and that sort of created something, and that's how this city was born. Okay, so that's the birth of a city. I brought it into workshop. It's about 11 years ago. My children thought I was going through the menopause because I was suddenly playing with bricks. My husband thought I'd lost it because I spent £5,000 on bricks, right? Because Lego costs a lot. And then I brought it here, and this particular building, we left outside in the corridor, and it was amazing, the amount of children who asked, what is this, what is that, why is this got a... For example, Isra, I don't know whether you can see it here, but Isra had a helicopter on it, and stuff like that, and they wanted to know all that. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's children who are interested. My mother at that time was in her 70s, and I remember going to Mama. I went to the States, I took this with her, and she said, are you serious? She looked at this and she said, is this the Qur'an? I said, yes, it is. But if Mom could learn it in a day, and she was in her 70s, I thought, that's it. So I got all these teachers to build it. And it was a novelty for them, because all the time teacher training was about talking to them and books and papers. And suddenly they had bricks, and they just built it, and it was amazing. And that literally was the birth of Quran City. Now you need to know a few things before we start. One of them is that the Quran is 114 surah. One surah, so many surah. There are 86 Makki and 28 Madani. If you look at all the Qur'ans that you have, it says Makki and Madani. And there is a difference. And we'll talk about it in a minute, okay? You need to know that there are 6,236 ayat in the Quran. That's good to know. 77,807 words. Okay, these are all numbers that maybe I can write down later on. We haven't written them down on the slides, but we'll put them down for you. I think so. I think you've done them all. So you've got somewhere where you've got them written down. So 77,807 words. You've got 6. I hope I get the number right to write down before I forget it. It's ayat. And then you have these rukus, right? 558 or 540, depending which Quran you follow, right? So if you look at the rukus, they're marked with an ain, like that, right? And then you have a number at the top, a number at the bottom, and then you have a number in the middle. That is the number of that ruku in the surah. That is in the juz, and that is the number of ayat in the ruku. Now, why did they do ruku? Because in Taraweeh, you would recite Alhamd, you would recite a ruku, and then you would go into sajda. 540 because 27 times 20 is 540. Taraweeh finishes on the 27th of Ramadan, and that's 20 rakats. The reason why it's called ruku and not makra, because you finish reciting it and you go into ruku. The Indians didn't like it because this was from Bukhara in Russia. The Quran was sent to Bukhara in Russia. They divided it sort of in subject and matter, and they went into 540. Quran was never revealed like this, okay? The Indians always had to be different. So they changed that to 558. Don't ask me why, I don't know. It's just like the Indians stole the Arab numbers, so the English stole the Arab numbers. Got that? That's why, anyway, whatever they did, they did. Now, that's just some basic stuff that you need to know. When we did Quran City, we needed to have a Quran City center. So you can see in your maps, you've got a city center, and it's surrounded by 19 suburbs. Okay? You also have a blank one, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to fill this without looking. Not now. Much. You don't have a blank one. Yeah, should be. There's lots of blank ones. You will have a blank one, which you will use as your test to fill in, right? But before we do that, you need to know the difference between Makki and Madani surah. Very, very briefly. First of all, the demarcation line between Makki and Madani is not that they were revealed in Makkah or Medina. The demarcation line is Hijrah. Anything before Hijrah is Makki, anything after Hijrah is Madani. Makki is always the why of religion. Madani is the how of religion. And it doesn't take you rocket science to see that if you have 86 Makki surah and 28 Madani, what is more important? Yet, as a Koji here, we learn more about how rather than the why. So if somebody used to ask me, how do you pray? I'd know. If somebody asked me, can you tell me a little bit about Tawheed? We'd say one God. That's it, Khalas. What about Nubuwah? I don't know the names of the prophets. What about Imama? Yeah, maybe I won't even recite Ziyarah. What about Qiyamah? Those are the things you've got to focus on. You will only know or want to do the how if you know the why. Okay. Now Makki surah, and you can read it up here, they're literally short ayat. There are many Madani ayat in Makki surah, many Makki ayat in Madani surah, but that is a demarcation. There's Makki and Madani, okay? Basically, you will find that Makki chapters talk about usul, which is your Tawheed, Adala, and Tawheed and Adala go together. Nubuwah and Imama and Qiyamah. You know usul is three. One God, divine guidance, and Qiyamah. That doesn't make me a non-Shia, by the way, because divine guidance includes the Imams as well, and Tawheed includes Adala as well. Are you good? That's basically what Makki talks about. Madani will talk about the other side. If you look at Makki, you'll find most of the ayat, Ya Ayyuhan Nas in Makki. In Madani, you'll find Ya Ayyuhal Ladina Amanu. So how to pray, how to deal with people, social interaction will be in Madani. In Makki, you basically talk about why. Are you good? So, if I put it in a nutshell, if somebody asked you, what's the difference between Makki and Madani? You would say usul and furu. Quite simple. Why and how. More Makki, less Madani. Are you good with that? Demarcation line is Hijrah. You got to know this, okay? If you look, you don't have this, but hopefully we can say, I'll put it on the group for you. There is a chronological order to the Qur'an. This now, the one that you have now is the order that the Prophet put it in. Chronologically, it was revealed like this. So surah number 96 was first. You can see all the yellows were first, and then the greens, because the Prophet was in Makkah and then in Medina. Now what we do with children is we tell them that every surah has a postcode. And the postcode is the number of the surah. So say you were looking at the postcode for surah number 68. It would be 96, 68, 73. That way the child knows that the surah revealed before was 96 and the one revealed after was 73. Are you good? It's just a methodology of knowing, okay? Go on, please. That is not in chronological order, because the Prophet put it in that order. And there was a reason, and it's amazing. That's the beauty of the Quran. Because when you look at it now, each surah dovetails onto the next. And we'll do that when we finished all 114. So he rearranged the Qur'an, not as chronological, but arranged order. Okay, and then we'll have a separate section on that as well. Yeah, well, yeah, obviously. Everything he said was Allah. Are you good? Okay? So the surah, Quran was revealed in chronological order as time wanted. First of all, it was revealed as a whole in Surah Al-Qadr, as we talked about. And then as the occasion demanded, it was revealed over 24 years. This is a chronological order. Then the Prophet dictated it to be put in an arranged order, which we have now. Okay? So this chronological order is like this. Now for children, to be able to remember the chronological order, we tell them every surah has a postcode. And the postcode is the number of the surah. So say you're talking about Surah Al-Fatiha, number 1. Okay? You know the postcode is 741111. You know 74 was revealed before and 111 was revealed after. It's just a way of learning and them to understand that there was a chronological order. Okay? We'll talk about this as a separate issue altogether. We put in some Quran city gates because every city had gates. You cannot enter the city without doing wudu, without trying to recite in Arabic. I know I've put be able to, but trying to recite in Arabic. To say A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim, because you don't want shaitan anywhere near you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, La ilaha illallah. And all of you know Walzam Kalbi. Okay, come on, you got to tell me. Walzam Kalbi, Hifta Kitabika Kama Allamtani. Can you see that? So we put that as the city gates, all right? Then we had now we saw all these cities, all these buildings. We had to connect them, and they needed to have a road network. And we call that road network M14. Because I live in the UK, and you do. All the motorways have M. M5, M4, M1, whatever. So we called it M14. So the children knew that you could not understand any of the surahs unless you had the Masumin's hadith with it. You good? So M14. So that whole road network is called M14. Are you comfortable? I'm trying to go as slow as possible. What we then did was we put Suratul Qamar right at the top. You can see that the moon there, right? The reason why we put it at the top, because there are 4 ayat in Suratul Qamar which say, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. 4 times he says, we have made the Qur'an easy to remember. Is there anyone who will mind? That's your general translation. Now you need to understand how that works. So you know what zikr means? Zikr means remembrance. A zakir is somebody who reminds or someone who remembers. Then the word became muzdakir. And I'll put this on the group for you. So muzdakir is one who puts in a lot of effort to remind. Then you can come down to mutadhakkir, somebody who puts a little less effort. And then the least effort is a muddakir. So basically, I'll rephrase it. We have made the Quran extremely easy for anyone who even puts a tiny bit of effort to remember it. And the reason why we put it at the top of the city was that you never forget and nobody says, it's so hard for me. Because if he says it's easy, you can't contest it. You can't say, Ya Allah, I think you made a bit of a mistake. You left me out. But he didn't. He says the Quran is easy to remember. And when he says remember means internalize. Are you good? So, on the city at the top, which surah is it? Surah number 54. And 54 is the moon. Are you good? So what do you want to see at Eid? Number 54. How did you start your Ramadan? Number 54. Oh, thank God for that. Okay, cool. Now we have a city center. The city center, because it's Quran city, it's all about Quran. It's got 4 surahs. Can you see the city center? And it's quite easy to remember because you've got 25, then we've got 96, 97, 98. So if you look at those surahs, and you also have a paper here which says short focus, by the way. Okay? So in the city center, we've put a surah. Let's look at 25. 25 tells you who you become if you follow the Quran, and who you become if you don't follow the Quran. So if you look at Surah Al-Furqan, it will talk about, for example, the Quraysh who said, how can a prophet of God be such an ordinary human being? They couldn't understand it. Said, why hasn't he got angels around it? Why does he go to shopping in the market? Why does he not have treasures? Why don't he just click his fingers and everything becomes gold? That's literally what they said. So Furqan tells you, Furqan actually means difference It actually puts a demarcation line between right and wrong. But Furqan tells you who you become if you follow divine guidance and who you become if you don't. All right. Then you have Suratul Alaq, which you all know. Iqra bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq. Khalaqal insana min alaq. Iqra wa rabbukal akram. Alladhi allama bil kalam. So 96 tells you how the Qur'an was revealed. It was revealed in a cave. The first 5 ayat is in Suratul Alaq. Are you comfortable with that? Okay. The third surah is Suratul Qadr. When the Qur'an was revealed. That's in Quran City Center. It's quite simple. Not difficult at all. We did Suratul Qadr. And then you have Suratul Bayyina. Now Suratul Bayyina, people don't read a lot. It's surah number 98. And surah number 98, ayah number 5. If you got your Quran with you, you can have a look. It gives you the crystal clear message of the Qur'an. So it tells you what the Qur'an is all about. If you've got your Qur'an with you, it's ayah number 5, surah number 98. If you've got it on your phone, please have a look and you'll be able to see what it's all about. So let's go to 98. God, this is really good. I can refer to it here. Okay, so Bayyina, ayah number 5 says, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ. All we want you to do is submit to Allah. Mukhlisina lahuddin, we want you to be sincere. وَيُقِيمُوا salata hunafa, which is upright. We want you to establish salah. وَيُؤْتُوا zakah, we want you to share or serve humanity. ذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمَةِ. That's basically what it's all about. So when the Prophet was asked by this man, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't want a lecture. Tell me in one sentence, what is Islam? He said, obedience to the Creator and serving His creation. And that's exactly what Bayyina is all about. Are you good? So Quran City Center has 4 questions it answers. Come on. Who? Go on. How? When? And what? Are you comfortable with that? So you understand what Quran City Center is about, right? Now the moment you see yellow, you know it's Makki. The moment you see green, you know it's Madani. Are you comfortable with that? Okay, so that's Quran City Center. Now we've got 19 different suburbs. You got to remember the number 19. Now the first one you're going to look at is right near the door, which is called Viewpoint Terrace. You go to that? Now you imagine that you want to go on holiday. Just want to go randomly on holiday. If you wanted to go randomly on holiday, you would find out where to go. Why do you want to go to that particular city? I like Istanbul. Why? I don't know, Bosphorus, whatever, right? Muslim city, everything is halal. You might, it doesn't matter. You might want to go wherever you want to go, you find out. So Viewpoint Terrace tells you the aspiration of every Muslim. So the first thing every Muslim wants to do is to be a mu'min. You really want to be a mu'min. And surah number 23 tells you the qualities of a mu'min. When we come to it, when we do our classes on a Thursday, we will do Suratul Mu'min. So that's my aspiration. I'm standing on this terrace. Now why do I want to go to Quran City? Because of Zumar. I want to zoom to Jannah. You can't forget Zumar, can you? Zoom to Jannah. I need you to turn to surah number 39, which is Suratul Zumar, so you know exactly what I am talking about. Okay? So go to 39. And if you look at 39, you're looking at ayah 73. Okay? You will see there is so much of a similarity between 71 and 73. You don't want 71. Because 71 is talking about those people who will go to Jahannam. And when we come to it, we'll talk about it. But right now, you want to know 73. It says, can you see what it says? وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقُوا رَبَّهُمْ إِلَى جَنَّةٍ زُمْرَةٍ. And those who are God conscious will be taken to Jannah. Can you see? Zumra, right? Zumra is companions. Hatta idha ja'uha. When they get there, وَفُتِيَتْ أَبْوَابُهَا, and the doors are open, وَقَالَ لَهُمْ, they will be told, خَزَنَتُهَا سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. They will be told, Salamun alaykum, peace be on you. Tibtum fadkhuluha khalidin, enter in it, and this is where you're going to stay. If you look at 71, it's exactly the same thing. وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ زُمْرًا. These will be taken to Jahannam. Hatta idha ja'uha futiha abwabuha, same words. وَقَالَ لَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ رَسُولٌ. One will be told Salamun Alaikum, one will be told, did you not get divine guidance? So, Viewpoint Terrace is my aspiration. I want to be a mu'min, and I know Zumar means companions, but if you can remember, you want to zoom to Jannah. Are you good? Not 71, but 73. Comfortable? You will highlight 73 in Surah Al-Zumar, and in your head, you will think, I want to be a mu'min, Surah number 23. I want to zoom to Jannah, Surah number 39. Are you good? Which ayah was it? 73. Great. Okay. Now what we did was, we differentiated into Tawheed, Nubuwah, and Qiyamah. So if you look at the bottom of your Quran city, you've got Hamidat Crescent, Divine Center, and Musabbihat Center. Can you see that? So you're going to start with Divine Center. So your first place of belief is Allah. Because Tawheed, Allah ilaha illallah. And if you want to know about the two extremes of divinity, or the two extremes of anyone want to aspire to get close to Allah, then it's Mulk and Rahman. So he has total control over everything, yet he's the most compassionate. Normally people who have control, normally people who are heads, it's very difficult for them to be compassionate. Once you get a chair, oh my goodness, it's quite hard. I'm not smiling, okay. All right. So Allah is in essence total control, yet utterly compassionate. A bit like a mama. That's why he tells Musa, you know, there's this child who was crying, and the mama picked the child up, nursed the child, changed the child, fed the child, all the rest of it, put the child in whatever, and the child still kept on crying. The mother left the child in the cot and walked away for a little bit, just for a little bit, but she had the child inside. And Allah says, Musa, did you see that mama? And he said, oh my God, the patience she had. He said, Musa, I am 70 times more Rahman than that mama. Okay? So that is Rahmaniyat. There's only one surah that begins with the Asma al-Husna, which is Ar-Rahman. Don't let anybody, absolutely anybody, tell you that you're unforgivable, or you're condemned to hell, or that's something wrong with people. Because he is Rahman. Okay? There is no sin that is great enough for him to not to forgive, if you know what I'm trying to say. Okay, great. Either side, you've got Musabbihat and Hamidat. Musabbihat are 7 chapters that declare his perfection. Sabaha means to swim. When you swim, you've got to be perfectly balanced. Although in most translations, Musabbihat or Subhan is translated as glorified. But if you just use the word declaring his perfection, when you say Subhanallah, you're saying, I declare the perfection of Allah. Now there are 7 surah. The Prophet did not sleep unless he recited one of these. So what I tell children is that 7 days a week, recite, you don't have to recite the whole surah, at least learn one ayah. On a Thursday night, do Surah Al-Jumu'ah. But every other night, just do one ayah, that's it. So if you recite it on a Thursday, Jumu'ah, on a Friday, Taghabun, on a Saturday, A'ala, can you see how you go? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 7, okay? 7 surahs. So I would suggest to you that you recite one of the Musabbihat, at least one ayah, and then tonight, Surah Al-Jumu'ah. Are you good with that? Only 11 ayat, it's not much at all, right? The Prophet said, I will not sleep unless I've recited Musabbihat. 7 ayat, okay. The other side, you've got Hamidat Crescent. 5 chapters of the Qur'an begin with Hamd. Now, you've got the map in front of you. In your Qur'an, you can then highlight them and color them and whatever you want. And I'll try and send you stuff that I've done. So there's 5, and they start with Hamd. Hamd literally does not only mean all praise be to Allah. It is praise and gratitude. That is why in all circumstances, you say Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah fi kulli hal. Whether it's hard times or good times or difficult times or whatever, you will say Alhamdulillah. And these 5 surahs are there, Fatiha, An'am, Kahf, Sabah, and Fatir. When we do them as journaling, you will see the difference it makes, okay? Right now it's an overview of the city. Are you okay with that? Don't look at me so blank. I'm going to go over it again next week, hopefully. Then we looked at divine guidance, which was Muhammad Square, right? So you've got Muhammad Square all in green there. Can you see that with the mosque? Yes? All right. So in Muhammad Square, it was a focus on the most awesome man that walked on the earth, right? So when planning Medina, the Prophet had Masjidun Nabi as the focal point. If you've been to any Muslim country, you will find around the mosque you have the cemeteries and you have the shops. That was how business happened, and that is how you remembered those who were dead. It was around the mosque, right? We tend to have things far away, but this is how he did it. So what we did in Muhammad Square was we divided it a little bit. The first thing we put in Muhammad Square, as you might want to see, is Ahlul Bayt circle. For me, they were really important. Right? So in Ahlul Bayt circle, we put two surahs. One was Insan and one was Kawthar. The reason why we put Insan there, because Suratul Insan or Suratul Dahar is about the house of Fatima. You know the 3 days that they fasted when Imam Hassan and Hussein were ill. You all know that, right? So you know that it's a surah of the Ahlul Bayt. We put Suratul Kawthar because that is Fatima. Suratul Kawthar is known as Fatima. Inna a'ataynakal Kawthar. Kawthar is Fatima. There's a lot of other things. When we do the small surahs, again, when we journal them, we will know them. So that was Ahlul Bayt circle. Then if you look at Muhammad Square, you've got 3 surahs up there. Suratul Muhammad, Suratul Fath, and Suratul Hujurat. Can you see that? You see those 3 surahs there? Fath, Hujurat, and Muhammad. Okay? Now, if you look at the 3 surahs of Fath, Muhammad, and Hujurat, can you tell me what similarities you think there are between those 3 surahs? Any idea? Muhammad, Fath, and Hujurat. Any idea what they're talking about? Anything there that you see as similar? What are there? What are these 3 chapters about? Why are those 3 chapters separated from all the other chapters? See, our problem is because we only recite Yasin or Mulk or Rahman, these are not surahs that we generally look at, right? You will find that these revolve around respect to the Prophet. They actually talk about respect to the Prophet. When we come to them, you will see what I mean by that. Then on there, we've got Nida Street. Can you see Nida Street? Right? Now, Nida Street, all these 5 surah over there begin with a direct address to the Prophet. So, for example, have a look, please. Open Suratul Ahzab. How does it start? Surah number 33. Okay? I need you to see them so you know what I'm saying. Okay? How does Surah number 33 start? Let's turn it. You turn it with me, and we all do it together. You got it? What does it say? Ya ayyuhan Nabi. Can you see that? That's a direct address to the Prophet. That's called Nida. Dua is different. Nida is different. Nida is a loud address. It's talking to someone. Ya ayyuhan Nabi. So, no guessing what talaq starts with. Go for it. Have a look. Surah Al-Talaq, surah number 65. I need you to see it for yourself, okay? There you go. Okay, Tahrim starts with Ya ayyuhan. Have a look at it. Ya ayyuhan. Okay, Ya ayyuhan Nabi. You know what Muzammil and Mudathir start with? Ya ayyuhal Muzammil and Ya ayyuhal Mudathir. Can you see the direct address to the Prophet? So we call that street Nida Street. You comfortable? You sure? You good with that? And then if you see up there, we put 2 surahs, Taha and Yasin. We put them in the middle of Huruful Muqatta'aat and Muhammad Square. The reason why they were in the middle is because both are names of the Prophet, but yet they're also Huruful Muqatta'aat. When you do Huruful Muqatta'aat, I'll explain. Can you see that? You understand why they're in the middle now? Okay. So how many names of the Prophet in the Quran? Does anybody know? There's 7 names. 7 names of the Prophet. You can write them down. Muhammad, Ahmad. You can write them down. Muhammad, Ahmad. You already know Taha and Yasin. And then you also know the other 2. Mudathir and Muzammil. Can you see that? So you had Taha, Yasin, Mudathir, Muzammil. But you also know Muhammad and Ahmad. Are you good with that? 7. Oh, have I got 6? Oh, Abdullah. Sorry, I forgot. Okay, so he's also known as Abdullah, which is the slave of Allah. Okay, his father was known as Abdullah as well, by the way. Okay, are you good with that? You comfortable? Yes. So that is Muhammad Square. Okay. Now, on one side of Muhammad Square, you will see Victory Circle. And Victory Circle was when they entered Makkah and there was no bloodshed. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. Are you good? وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. On the other side is Kamil Close. And Kamil Close is when the last revelation, the perfection, we did this higher. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum deenukum. Are you good with that? Can you see how the city is building? Yes, no, maybe, perhaps? Yes, good. I'll bring Lego in as well one day. And then you can all build Lego. It's amazing. It really does work. Okay, at the top, we have Qiyamah Close. You see that? Now, all those surah there, Waqia, Haqqa, Ma'arij, Nabat, Takwir, Infitar, Inshiqaq, Ghashiyah, Zilzal, and Qariya, all talk about the day of Qiyamah. It's a graphic detail of Qiyamah. It's amazing. And it's like a vivid picture. It tells you what will happen on the day of Qiyamah. Then we had some surahs that were left over. Now we had to do something with them, right? That's the truth. So the first thing we thought was, let's find something that gives you energy. And you need a light. You need a divine energy. So we called an energy zone. And in energy zone, we put Surah An-Nur. You get? And you know why we did that now. Surah An-Nur, energy? Okay. Then we needed a healthy zone, especially with what was going on in the world, okay? Nobody liked chips. So if you looked at Surah An-Nahl, it actually talks about healthy stuff, milk and fruits and honey, unless you're lactose intolerant. But anyway, it talked about a lot of healthy stuff, so we put Surah An-Nahl. By the way, you know honey is so good, right? All right, great. And then we had to find a place where you wanted to go if you weren't feeling good. If you were anxious, if you were depressed, if you thought life was just throwing everything to you, and these are the two surah we're doing with the kids in the month of Ramadan, and we called it comfort zone. We made it into a heart. Yes. We made it into a heart. We called it comfort zone, and it was Duha and Inshira. Every time the Prophet was upset, he would recite Duha and Inshira, and he would go for a long walk. So that's what you can do. And you can see that we've put Duha in between comfort close and custom place, because Duha starts with Wad-Duha, I swear by. And we have this custom place where we put all the other ones. And we'll come to custom place in a minute. Now you've got 4 corners here. You see them? Kaaba corner, not rocket science. In Kaaba corner we put Hajj, Quraysh and Fil. It cannot be rocket science to understand why we put them there. Hajj because of the Kaaba. Quraysh and Fil both relate to the Kaaba. You know that? Okay, great. Then we had Kul corner. Everybody thinks there are 4 kuls, but there's 5. There's 5 surah of the Qur'an that start with Kul, and one of them is Surah Al-Jinn. Nobody likes jinns, but they're wonderful. You know they're in Stanmore as well. You don't know Ayub? You do, don't you? He is phenomenal. You don't know him? I'll introduce you to him. Okay. Somebody said he died, but he's alive. Okay. Then we have Exiled corner. So Exiled corner is where you put with the children we call it naughty corner. So that's naughty corner. And in naughty corner you have all the things that are not good. For example, Abasa, he frowned. Mutaffifin, they cheated, right? Takathur, they just collected so much stuff. Humaza, they backbiters. Ma'un, they wouldn't even give you, if you had fish and chips, they wouldn't even give you the paper. Forget about giving you the chips. They wouldn't even give you the paper, okay? And Lahab obviously talked about the flame, or Abu Lahab, right? And you can see the green one is Munafiqun. That means when they got to Medina, they got so clever, they could hide their bad stuff and be hypocrites. You see how it works? Now to get out of naughty corner, you have to have Tawbah turn. You can't get out of naughty turn. Have you played Monopoly before? Go to jail. How'd you get out of it? There you go. Okay. So that's your Tawbah turn. And Anfal and Tawbah are literally one surah. When we do them, you'll understand. That is why you have no Bismillah in Tawbah. Besides it being a eye of Rahmah, these two go together. They're paired together. Okay? Are you good? Okay. Woman's Corner. No prizes to get to see why it's pink and why it's got Maryam, Nisa, Mujadila and Mumtahana. All women's names. Are you good? Yes? If you have a problem with someone, and please don't let it be an Ahlul Bayti, okay? If you have a problem with someone and they're being really bad to you, turn towards their house, recite Surah Al-Mujadila 3 times, take some earth and throw it towards their house. This is what the Masumin teach us. And they won't give you any trouble. Don't do it for Ahlul Baytis, okay? Them go and say sorry and sort it out with them. Okay. Qasam place. Now, 17 chapters of the Qur'an begin with oath. I swear by. Allah does not need to swear. You and I may need to swear to prove our truthfulness. He is truth in itself, so he doesn't need to swear. The reason why we have a place, or rather in the Quran you have where he swears, is because number one, the Arab had a custom. So for example, if you read a newspaper or you saw any of the news items that you see, the headline is always something that attracts you. You know, sometimes it's not even what is there in the news, but it attracts. Let me give you an example. I've got a few minutes. Many years ago, my son's 37 now, so he was about 2 years old or 3 years old. And I remember being interviewed by one of the radio channels. And they came home and they interviewed. And they said, what are your feelings about particular crime? They didn't talk about this crime, but let's say they talked about murder, okay? So they said, what if this son of yours, and he was toddling around, and they said, what if this son of yours grew up and murdered someone? Would you accept the Sharia punishment for him, that he would be killed? And I said, if it was proved in a court of Sharia that he had, without any reason, murdered someone, of course I would. That was my answer. When the headline came up, and I think it was Radio 3 or Radio 4, whatever it was, the headline said, Mom willing to see her son being killed. Can you see what headlines do? And that's exactly what the Arabs did. If they wanted you to stop in your tracks and listen to something else, swear by the flower. So everybody would say, oh my goodness, it must be a flower to be looked at. So Allah uses the same concept but twists it into a better way, because what he's swearing by is a prelude to the subject that will be discussed. Okay? So it says, وَالضُّحَى, for example, we're doing this with the children, وَالضُّحَى is the early morning light. And early morning light is accustomed to revelation, because that's the time in the night when the sun is soothing, it's bright, and people stir at that time. They're stirring. So it stirs something inside you, it's soothing, and it brings you light for hidayah. Can you understand? Okay. So inshallah we'll go into all these different ones, or if God gives us life and we continue. Then you have huruful muqatta'aat. Now there's a whole section right at the side, huruful muqatta'aat, right? Harf is word, huruf is words. Okay? Muqatta'aat is easy to remember because you just remember cut. Cut means the words are cut. So whether it's alif lam mim or alif lam mim ra, or it's taha or yasin, or you also have singles closed there. Have you seen them? Saad, qaf and noon. Qalam is noon, right? Saad, qaf and noon. So we call them, can you see the singles closed? There's only 3 in singles. They need Cupid because they need to get married. Okay? Saad, qaf and noon. Are you good? You won't forget those, will you? So then you have hawamim. The Prophet said, these were a gift to me. No Prophet was given a gift to me like hawamim. And we talked about hawamim when we did, which surah did we do that part of hawamim? Do you remember? We did Ankabut, Rum and Dukhan. Which one? Dukhan, absolutely right. Mimat start with alif lam mim. Then you've got ra'at, which is alif lam ra. You good with that? These are all huruful muqatta'aat, and inshallah when we do them, we'll go over them a bit more. Now we had 2 surahs left over. We didn't know what to do with them. We're just floating around. So when we looked at Ra'at place, can you see something in Ra'at place? You've got Yunus, Hud, Yusuf and Ibrahim. Can you see those? And the ones we had left over were Anbiya and Nuh. So we annexed them to Ra'at place because they seem to go with the prophets. Can you see how it was done? If you have 2 surahs floating around, where do you put them? So we thought we put them with Yunus, Hud, Yusuf and Ibrahim. Are you comfortable? Have you understood the city now? Yes or no? So if I gave you a ton of bricks, maybe somewhere in the future, if you ask me and allows me, will you be able to build a city? Yes? It'll be really cool. Really, it's amazing how it works. Incidentally, there's an exhibition in Toronto, Mark, on the 3rd, I think it opens on the 3rd of May, and that is totally on Quran City. And the young people have done a phenomenal job, absolutely phenomenal. So what I expect you to do next week is to try and fill that in a little bit. It's okay. Even if you have to look, doesn't matter. Okay, try and fill that in. And next week we will continue with Quran City. And you'll love it. It's absolutely lovely. Are you good? I might bring some bricks. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. My time is... Can we have a salawat, please? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraja. Can we have a Surah Al-Fatiha? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Sadaqallahu al-azim. I'm hoping you'll bring these in next week. I'll try and post the PowerPoint onto the group, so you've got it in front of you.